Welcome to this explainer. So picture this for a second. It's like 11 p.m., you're totally exhausted, lying in bed, and the glow of your phone is just illuminating your face. You know for a fact you should be saving for that big upcoming expense or, your retirement, yet somehow you find yourself clicking buy now on something you didn't even know you wanted 10 minutes ago. We often think of the modern financial crisis as just a simple math problem, but as we're going to uncover today, it's actually a hidden neurological battlefield. It's literally a biological war between your primitive survival brain and your strategic, future-planning mind. And honestly, it is quietly destroying the long-term wealth of millions of hardworking people. Okay, let's just dive right into this ultimate modern paradox. You're smart, right? You know how to budget. You know inflation is eating away at your paycheck. Yet, you still find yourself trapped in this cycle of impulsive consumption. Why do millions of intelligent people consistently choose short-term comfort over their own long-term financial freedom? Well, the answer isn't bad math, and it certainly isn't a lack of character. It's biology. We're out here playing a modern game of wealth creation using hardware that hasn't been updated in tens of thousands of years. See, we have to realize that our brains are essentially ancient hardware trying to run modern financial software. Human beings evolved in these brutal environments where finding a calorie-dense berry bush meant instant survival. So your brain naturally rewards you with this massive hit of dopamine for immediate gains because, well, historically, tomorrow was never guaranteed. You had to consume what was in front of you right then and there. But modern wealth, that requires decades of delayed gratification and really complex planning. This evolutionary mismatch means our ancient survival instincts, the exact things that kept our ancestors alive, are now actively working against our financial success. Let's look at how this builds into a highly addictive, dangerous loop. First, just the simple anticipation of browsing builds excitement. Then, the physical act of clicking purchase triggers a massive dopamine release. It feels like a sudden victory. When the package actually shows up, you get this rush of emotional satisfaction. Eventually, and this is the scary part, your brain permanently wires itself to associate spending money with stress relief. Every digital click provides immediate emotional comfort, perfectly engineering a neurochemical reward system that trains your brain to prioritize consumption over investing. To put this into perspective, think about dropping $300 on a sudden impulse buy today. Maybe it's a really nice dinner out, a new designer jacket, or the latest tech gadget. It provides a powerful, visceral, emotional hit. You feel an immediate sense of control, excitement, and even some temporary social validation. Your primitive brain completely understands and deeply values this instant reward. It feels real. It feels tangible. You can wear it, use it, or taste it right now. But boom, here is where the mismatch brilliantly reveals itself. That exact same money invested consistently could grow into $30,000 over time. But to your ancient brain, a compounding index fund is just incredibly boring. It provides zero immediate dopamine. Watching a retirement account slowly compound over decades feels completely disconnected from your present reality. Your brain naturally dismisses what it can't feel right now, completely blinding you to the fact that you literally just traded $30,000 of future freedom for a fleeting moment of today's comfort. And look, we've got to be fair to ourselves here. You aren't failing at finance just because of bad habits. You're operating under crushing chronic stress that actively drains your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning. When you're constantly worried about rising housing costs, managing student debt, and battling modern burnout culture, your time horizons violently narrow. Under this constant cognitive overload, the future just becomes psychologically blurry, and finding immediate relief becomes an absolute emotional emergency. This leads us into an era of what psychologists are actually calling doom spending. It's a fascinating and honestly dangerous paradox. When economic anxiety from inflation hits, we don't naturally save more. Instead, this subconscious panic sets in. We feel like our money is losing value anyway, and economic security feels totally out of reach. This acts like an invisible enemy, quietly convincing us to use retail therapy as an emotional self-medication against economic fear. Our exhausted brains simply whisper, "Hey, I deserve this right now," effectively trading our last safety net for temporary comfort. Which brings us to decision fatigue. You make thousands of these micro decisions every single day. Think about it. After a 10-hour shift, navigating complicated office politics, answering 100 emails, and figuring out what the heck to make for dinner, your mental energy is entirely depleted. The part of your brain that handles complex retirement planning is literally out of gas. But double-tapping your screen to buy a new pair of shoes? That takes zero effort. Your brain aggressively seeks relief, not complexity, leading you straight into impulsive behavior. And well, to make matters even worse, you're fighting hyper-optimized algorithms that actually weaponize our biology against us. Modern digital platforms are sophisticated behavioral manipulation systems. These algorithms know your stress just based on how fast you scroll. They analyze your spending habits, your emotional vulnerabilities, and your exact impulse timing. They serve you the perfect targeted ad precisely when your self-control is at its absolute lowest, making you consume way faster than your conscious reasoning can ever hope to catch up.
Then there's the ultimate trap: buy now, pay later systems. Normally, handing over physical cash actually triggers the pain centers in your brain. But these systems separate the pleasure of acquiring the item from the pain of paying for it. This gamification of debt provides immediate pleasure with delayed pain, actively disrupting your brain's natural risk detection mechanisms. It tricks us into viewing debt as just normalized entertainment and disguised convenience, completely hiding the long-term destruction of your wealth.
So, that brings us to the future self disconnect, the psychological death of the future you. Behavioral finance has uncovered something truly terrifying here. fMRI scans actually show that when we think about our 65-year-old retired selves, our brain lights up as if we're thinking about a complete stranger. Because that older version of you doesn't feel emotionally real today, saving for retirement feels psychologically identical to taking your hard-earned money and just giving it away to someone else. No way, right? To bypass this cognitive dissonance, you must emotionally humanize that future stranger. Will they experience security and autonomy, or fear independence? Reconnecting with your future self transforms saving from a chore into an act of self-protection. Okay, so how do we build a defense? First, we absolutely have to aggressively recognize our personal dopamine triggers, because without this awareness, our spending will always remain an unconscious, emotional reaction rather than a strategic choice. Is it workplace exhaustion? Is it social comparison driven by those perfectly curated lifestyles on social media? A fantastic strategy here is instituting a strict 24-hour waiting period on all online purchases. Let that initial dopamine spike subside. Identifying what sends you looking for a hit is the vital first step in building a framework for strategic wealth preservation.
We really need to reframe what money actually is. Through mindful consumption, we completely flip the script. Every dollar spent impulsively isn't a reward. It's a tiny slice of your future time and autonomy that you are literally giving away. True financial empowerment isn't about eliminating joy today, it's about deep intentionality. We have to realize that keeping your money, growing your money, and preserving your wealth is the ultimate act of psychological liberation.
Now, since willpower alone is pretty much always going to fail against modern burnout and those sophisticated algorithms, we must use automation as our ultimate weapon. Automated investing completely bypasses your emotional inconsistency. If you automate your savings to pull from your paycheck before you even see it, you remove the daily decision-making entirely. Decision fatigue can no longer hurt your portfolio. You turn financial discipline from a daily, exhausting emotional struggle into a flawless, invisible mechanical process that builds wealth passively in the background. When it comes down to it, you're choosing between two completely different lives. A reactive life keeps you stuck on an endless treadmill, forever chasing the next temporary dopamine hit and fleeting social validation. But a proactive life, that's about building the ultimate modern luxury, which is having options. The financially empowered individual understands that wealth isn't really about fancy cars or luxury items. It's about absolute security, unwavering flexibility, and having total ownership over your own time. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to consider this stark reality the next time you're staring down a hyper-engineered digital checkout screen. The entire modern economy is designed to make you trade your future for right now. Every single time you consciously choose to invest rather than consume, you aren't just saving money, you are actively reclaiming your freedom and your autonomy. So the big question is, will you take back control or let temporary pleasures entirely consume your future? Thanks for exploring this incredibly important topic with me.